Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Adebola Adedwa. The top stories are this hour. Navy intercepts 100,000 liters stolen crude oil in Ondo State. Workers escaped death as two-story structure caves in Abia State. Senegalese Prime Minister set to revoke amnesty law granted to former President Macky Sall. And details shortly. Let's begin by telling you that Bauchi State Governor Bahala Mohammed has again berated the policies introduced by the administration of President Bola Tinubu, especially the tax reform bills, describing them as anti-Northern Nigeria. He said that the tax reform bills are aimed at favoring just a section of the country and aimed at shortchanging Northern Nigeria. The governor, who could not hide his feelings but spoke passionately, called on the president and his team to listen to the people over whatever policies they bring and should change them when there are complaints. He stressed that no policy should be imposed on the people because Nigeria does not operate an oligarchy system of government or a military rule. He said this in his speech when he received a Christian community in Bauchi State who paid a visit to him at the government house on Wednesday for the annual Christmas homage. The Director General of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Musa Najomo, has scheduled a meeting with the CEOs of domestic airlines to address rising concerns over flight delays and cancellations. The announcement was made by NCAA's Director of Public Affairs, Michael Achimogu, on Thursday. Achimogu revealed that Najomo has cut short an assignment to prioritize the issue, emphasizing the authority's commitment to consumer protection. Achimogu recounted addressing angry passengers during a recent delay, ensuring transportation and accommodation for affected travelers. He also facilitated compensation agreement and promoted the use of NCAA's complaints channel. The NCAA has recently intensified measures to enforce airline accountability, marking its first consumer protection action in over a decade. Achimogu also disclosed plans to receive daily weather reports from NIMET to verify airlines' claims. Men of the Nigerian Navy Forward Operating Base Igbokoda have intercepted a boat carrying about 100,000 liters of stolen crude oil at the Idiogbamahin coastline in Ilaje local government area of Ondo State. The commanding officer of the base, Captain Aliyu Usman, disclosed this to journalists during an assessment visit to the site. Captain Usman revealed that the naval team acted on credible intelligence and swiftly deployed its quick response team. According to him, the team intercepted a wooden boat loaded with the stolen crude oil. He said other items used for bunkering activities, such as discharge hoses and pumping machines, were also found in the boat. At least 11 people were reportedly killed by suspected armed herders who invaded some communities in Kwande local government area of Benue State on Christmas Day. Now, the attackers were said to have invaded its Yuluf, Se Azege, and Eniyevia communities in the Nkonon district of Turan in Kwande local government area, turning the Christmas celebration of joy into sorrow. A resident of the now-deserted Mbaduru Council Ward, who is taking refuge in Jatu Aqua Lawrence Akerigba, told newsmen that the attackers abducted 7 children, with the oldest being 6 years, while the youngest is 2 years of age. According to him, the attackers invaded Yath and Mbakilol council wards of Turan community at about 4 p.m. when most residents were at home with their families enjoying the cool breeze of the Yuletide, killing 11, injuring scores, and abducted children, while others were still missing. And to unpack this, we're joined by former chairman Zamfara Committee on Prosecution of Bandits and Related Offences, and that's Abdullahi Shinkafi. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Good afternoon, companion of the season.
I wish you the same.
I wish you Merry Christmas. Thank you for having me.
Many thanks. Let me kick off by asking regarding this violence in the Middle Belt, Benue State precisely. It's becoming a recurring decimal. Recall in 2023, about 160 lives were lost during Christmas time. Why is violence and attacks becoming such a repeated occurrence during the Christmas time in the Middle Belt?
You see, it is very quite unfortunate and heartbreaking and disheartening when the Christian faithful at this holy season of Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, and some heartless invaders, the armed bandits, attacked the Konde community and launched rampage. About 11 people were killed, several people were heavily injured. So it is a very unfortunate situation, and it is lack of good security intelligence gathering. If this thing have happened in the previous years, the security must be on alert. They should take a serious security measure to curtail these invaders from perpetrating this crime. Since it has been used to happen during the festivity period, and the Inspector General of Police and other security agencies has informed the members of the public and all those security agencies to be very vigilant during this festivity season. So it is very quite unfortunate, and there's a security failure on the part of the security, and also on the part of the internal security. There's no internal security gathering. And some of the community in such a community is supposed to give some intelligence report on the activities of these invaders or criminal armed bandit in such a locality. And you know, since when the last administration of autumn signed non-grazing law in Benue State, is part of the what is the root cause of all this crime and criminality in Benue State. And all hands must be on deck to fight these criminals and their sponsors.
Now, you touched on something quite interesting, Mr. Shinkafi. You talked about the no grazing law in Benue State being the root cause of all of these attacks and violence. How can we address them to prevent future attacks?
You see, there is need for improve in the security gathering, and there is need for more deployment of this security personnel in all these ungoverned spaces. You know, Benue State has share boundary with Raba State, and Raba State share boundary with Cameroon. And there is this river Benue, where these smaller and lighter arms can come through the sea and also to be used by these criminals. And you know, Taraba, Adamawa, and Benue, and even Ribaneja, all these arms and ammunition can be smuggled through the sea, and this criminal can also have access to this small and lighter arms. So these are some of the root causes that should be a serious security governing and community policing. And then also security chiefs in Nigeria. If you look at the 2025 budget, more than 4.9 trillion was appropriated in 2025 fiscal year. Yet all the money paid into the Nigerian budget have not changed the narratives. So there is need to go into advanced technology in fighting this crime and criminality instead of using conventional police. And there is need also to apply some methodology. You know, in this type of situation, you cannot only use kinetic approach to solve the problem. Then you have to use non-kinetic approach to also solve the problem by using traditional rulers, community leaders, and also other political leaders.
Now, just to follow your train of thoughts, Mr. Shinkafi, you touched on the coastlines in the Middle Belt, such as Taraba, Adamawa, and those areas where more often, you know, arms and ammunition are smuggled in. We understand the governor of the state has urged security agencies to fish out perpetrators of these attacks. What do you think could have been done to prevent such attack in the first place?
Yeah, there should be a deployment of naval officers who will now look at the sea to take care of the sea. Because as I have told you, that sea connected right river Benue is connected with the river Niger, even up to Cross River, even up to Atlantic Ocean. So there is need for serious surveillance in our sea and in our land border. All these arms and ammunition are being smuggled into Nigerian shore through the sea and the land border. So this is what I'm telling you. And also, you know, Benue State and share boundary with Nasarawa State, Plateau State, and also Taraba State. All these states, Kogi State, are some of the volatile area in the Middle Belt. So it is very easy for some of these criminals to gang and launch havoc. Many local government in Benue State are not habitable. I have been to some part of this Benue State to visit a friend in Benue State. I have seen many villages have been displaced by these criminal elements. More than 1 million people have been displaced, are now IDPs in their country home. It is very shameful.
Now, talking about this, very harrowing incident, which has become a recurring, occurrence in the Middle Belt, Benue State precisely, you've touched on the need for non-kinetic approach in tackling the problems. Would you say our security architecture can effectively tackle crime and violence, or there's just something missing? Is it a lack of intelligence or lack of manpower?
You see, most of this security, I have said it earlier, it's not issue of lack of manpower or lack of funds. If you look at the 2024 budget, more than 3.9 billion was appropriated for security and defense. And in this year also, this year budget, defense have took over getting to 4.8% of the national budget. Yet it has not changed the narratives. So what I'm saying, there is need for this kinetic approach. You see, Plateau State is one of the volatile states in the Middle Belt, Nasarawa State, even Benue State, and many others, even Kogi State. So there is need to improve the technology in fighting this crime, using drones, using artificial intelligence. You understand why the government even for a cure Tucano jet fighter, yet we have not seen this Tucano jet fighter fighting this crime and criminality in Nigeria. This is the truth of the situation.
Indeed, we do hope a lasting solution is found to the crime and criminality happening in the Middle Belt, particularly Benue State. Many thanks indeed for your time on the news. Abdullahi Shinkafi, former chairman, Zamfara Committee on Prosecution of Bandits and Related Offences. Many thanks indeed. The FCT Commissioner of Police, Olatunji Disu, has commended residents of the capital for collaborating with the police in combating crime and insecurity in the state. And this was during a tour to evaluate the current security situation at the recreational spot in the capital and the border communities. He said the police has recorded tremendous success in apprehending criminal suspects and recovering stolen property throughout the year, a feat that was made possible by the collaboration with the police and the public.
Everywhere that we have been to, we have seen police officers deployed. We have seen divisional police officers taking charge in all the parks. And then we have visited our neighboring border towns. I can see synergy between police officers in FCT and other neighboring states. So far, so good. I'm happy with what I've seen. We have prepared from the beginning of the year. This is the final period. We do not want anything unpleasant to smear all the good work we have done from the beginning of the year. Because I've gotten wonderful cooperation from the residents of the Federal Capital Territory. Almost all the achievements so far gotten by the police was gotten through the cooperation of the people. So I want to thank them so much for that. And as Oliver Twist that we are soliciting for more support.
After the break, workers escaped death as two-story structure caves in Abia State. Details shortly. Join. Thank you for staying with us. And now let's go over to Umuahia, the Abia State capital, where a two-story building still under construction collapsed on Christmas Day. The cause of the collapse has not yet been officially established, but some warning notices pasted around the site by the Umuahia Capital Development Authority, UCDA, dated December 26, 2024, declared the site sealed. A resident who pleaded anonymity said there were no casualties as the site workers were on holiday. As of Thursday afternoon, a bulldozer was seen demolishing the remaining parts of the structure. Reacting to the incident, the public relations officer of the Umuahia Capital Development Authority, Nkiru Ogba, confirmed that the contractors did not follow due process. Let's now bring in our correspondent Chinwe Ugile for more updates.
Right behind me is the building that collapsed on the 25th of December, just 2 days ago, and jolted this entire neighborhood of Ozuitem Street in Umuahia, Abia State capital. It is yet unknown the reason for the collapse of a section of the building, which was still under construction. But then there were no casualties, and that is understandable because it was on the Christmas day, so workers are not expected to be on site. But then that also puts a lot of question to the integrity of some of the buildings that go on within the state capital. Abia State government already sealed off the property for proper investigations to be conducted on the reasons behind the collapse of the building. Right behind me is the building that collapsed on the 25th of December, just 2 days ago, and jolted this entire neighborhood of Ozuitem Street in Umuahia, Abia State capital. It is yet unknown the reason for the collapse of a section of the building, which was still under construction. But then there were no casualties, and that is understandable because it was on the Christmas day, so workers are not expected to be on site. But then that also puts a lot of question to the integrity of some of the buildings that go on within the state capital. Abia State government already sealed off the property for proper investigations to be conducted.
And still on a sad note, the Federal Road Safety Corps has confirmed the death of 2 people and 15 others injured in a lone accident involving a Toyota Hiace at Sakpade on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway in Ogun State. The spokesperson for the FRSC in Ogun State, Florence Okwe, said the accident occurred on Thursday, adding that the incident was caused by tire dust, which resulted in the loss of control. Okwe noted that 18 people were in the bus marked LSR 585YH, including 9 men, 5 women, 2 boys, and 2 girls. She adds that 15 people who got injured comprised 8 men, 4 women, 2 boys, and 1 girl, while 2 people died, comprising 1 man and a woman. Meanwhile, the injured victims were taken to Patmag Hospital, Ogiri, where the deceased were deposited at the State General Hospital morgue in Isara. And 2 people have died in a motor accident on the Dutse Kafin Hausa Road in Ramfabia village in Jigawa State. Now, the incident occurred on Thursday afternoon, while police confirming the fatalities. The state police spokesperson, Shisu Adam, said officers responded promptly after receiving a distress call around 2 p.m. 2 injured victims have been treated at the Kafin Hausa Hospital, while 3 others are receiving care at Dala Orthopedic Hospital in Kano State. The identities of the deceased remain undisclosed as authorities notify their families. Eyewitnesses describe the scene as devastating, with vehicles badly damaged. Although the cause of the crash is unknown, police have launched investigation to determine the circumstances surrounding the tragedy, assuring the public of a thorough probe. The Nigerian police force across several states in the country has apprehended multiple groups of armed robbers, cultists, and hoodlums targeting fund seekers and engaging in gangsterism during Christmas celebration. A statement by the Force Public Relations Officer, ASP Olumoyiwa Adejobi, notes that the police operatives in Lagos arrested 3 suspected hoodlums identified as Emmanuel Okoli, Ogunde Tejiri, and Emmanuel Oji in the Safejo area of Amukoko in Lagos State. Similarly, operatives attached to the Saminaka Division of the Kaduna State Command, also on the 25th December 2024, apprehended one Sule Muhammad, who is said to be actively involved in multiple kidnapping incidents within the Saminaka area. Away from that, the year 2024 has been a mixed bag for the press in Nigeria. Globally, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization says for the 2nd consecutive year, conflict zones have proven dangerous for journalists and media workers, with 2024 seeing at least 68 deaths in the line of duty. Now, more than 60% of these killings occurred in countries experiencing conflict, the highest percentage in over a decade. The report highlights that 42 journalists were killed in conflict zones this year, including 18 in Palestine, which recorded the highest toll. But in Nigeria, from forced disappearance to threats to safety, the Nigerian journalist is still very much in search of a fare to ply his trade. And to take a look at this, we're joined by the National Secretary of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, and that's Achike Chude, who joins us virtually. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
All right. I mean, what would you say categorically that there is press freedom in Nigeria?
Yes, there is press freedom as guaranteed by the Constitution. Section 2 of the Nigerian Constitution makes it very clear and defines the role of the journalist as intrinsic to national development and very fundamental for the democratization process. In fact, it is said that if you want to weigh the level of success of a democracy, you look at the level of the practice of journalism in a country. If it is relatively okay, then you could say that democracy is relatively, okay. So you use, the media, the measurement of the media to also gauge the value of the democracy that we have in a country. And so, like I said, yes, we have press freedom as guaranteed by the Constitution. But whether in actual fact that is guaranteed journalist, that freedom is guaranteed journalist, is to some extent is relative. To some extent, yes. But to some other extent, for as long as the journalist wants to engage in reporting of the political process, it is inherent, it is accompanied by all manners of danger to his person. He's not allowed to freely practice his journalism. And we have seen that in the country in the past, at least since the beginning of this year. We have had all manners of attacks against journalists and journalism in the country, either through direct physical attack and harassment of the journalist, or through threats against a journalist, both by state actors and non-state actors. In fact, in Africa, I think out of a total of 39 incidented reports in West Africa, about a third of these reports have to do with the harassment of the media in Nigeria. So while the Constitution guarantees the safety of journalists, but in practice, we have seen the very difficult situation that Nigerian journalists find themselves in at the hands of not just federal agencies now, but now the states have also weighed in on it too, and they're also showing their own level of repression.
What just chip in there, Mr.
Also showing.
Yeah, I was going to build on your line of thought. You talked about state and non-state actors, laying attacks on journalists, preventing them from expressing or exercising their duty. Beyond journalists, facing threats in the course of reportage of their activities or political activities, what are some of the challenges faced by Nigerian journalists looking at the year 2024?
Yeah, well, again, of course, the obvious ones we keep on talking about the fact that journalists are not very well remunerated for the job that they're doing. We still have issues of journalists not being paid adequately. In some instances, they are not even being paid at all. And so what that means is that you are exposing them to the possibility of compromising on their profession. Because look, the first law of nature is survival. So and it is said that he who does not work must not eat. That follows that those who work must also be able to eat. And so when you deprive them of the ability to feed themselves and their families, then you're opening them up to all manners of inducements and gratifications by certain elements who might not mean well for the society, and so that is one of the major issues. Another one is the fact that a lot of them are not working with the right kind of tools for the profession. They do not have, of course, that we're in the age of technology, and there are certain basic tools, technological tools that they need to be able to make their jobs much easier. Instead of sometimes making journeys, of course, we look at the cost of transportation in the country today. Instead of them to make some of these journeys, technology can actually come, to use. And then they just file these reports and they send it to their media organizations and all that. So they do not have the working
Mr. Chude, are you there? Okay, seems we lost connection with our guest there. Achike Chude, National Secretary of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. We thank him all the same for his time on the news. And now to health matters, where Minister of Health, Professor Ali Pati, has assured that the efforts of President Tinubu-led administration in reducing the cost of Medicare in the country has begun yielding tangible results. The minister gave the assurance in a Christmas message to Nigerians. He explained that over 70 new healthcare manufacturing companies are engaging in active discussions with international financiers concerning the execution of 22 large-scale investment projects in the country.
Over 70 new healthcare manufacturing companies with strong projects backed by impressive business cases have already lined up with 22 large-scale projects currently in active discussions with international financiers. More than 10 value chain verticals are being established in-country, including the manufacturing of rapid diagnostic test kits, which is exemplified by our signing of an MOU with South Africa-based Abbott Diagnostics, and also Colexa Codex, which is already manufacturing in Lagos. Abbott has agreed to establish a plant in our country to manufacture rapid kits for malaria and several other diseases. Medical oxygen is another investment vertical being advanced, as seen in our partnership with the Global Gases Group, which is establishing a cryogenic air separation plant in Nigeria, and other supply chain support solutions, such as our recent agreement with Siemens Healthineers, a world-renowned company, to establishing an ultrasound assembly plant in our country. Active pharmaceutical ingredients is another important area of
On assuming office on May 29, 2023, President Bola Tinubu promised to overhaul Nigeria's healthcare system, addressing disease outbreaks, mortality rates, the medical brain drain, and health infrastructure. In continuation of our 2024 sectoral review, tonight, so this afternoon rather, we shift focus to the health sector, and our correspondent Idun Joseph captures the key highlights in his package.
One of the most pressing issues in Nigeria's health sector is the persistent threat to infectious disease outbreaks. The government has worked to strengthen disease prevention strategies by expanding the capabilities of the National Center for Disease Control.
Since President Bola Tinubu took office, he has pledged to improve the health sector, from addressing the issue of brain drain to investing in health infrastructure. Over the past 18 months, there have been significant developments, but also there have been notable challenges within this period.
Mpox situation.
Regarding Mpox, while it remains a threat with about 118 confirmed cases and no deaths across 28 states and the FCT, in August 2024, Nigeria became the first African country to receive 10,000 doses of Mpox vaccines donated by the United States to combat the outbreak. Similarly, in October 2024, the Nigerian government received its first delivery of over 800,000 doses of malaria vaccines, which are intended to enhance existing interventions.
We actually saw COVID really talking around how do even people access vaccine. We know the likes of South Africa couldn't even have, which have developed economy than us. I think the minister and also his team, you can give them an edge that they're actually doing something in that regards.
Despite these efforts, diseases like cholera remain persistent. In the first 9 months of 2024, Nigeria reported over 10,800 suspected cholera cases, resulting in 359 deaths, largely due to inadequate sanitation and healthcare access in rural areas. According to UNICEF data, Nigeria's maternal mortality rate witnessed an improvement, with 41 deaths per 1,000 live births, with 1,047 deaths for every 100,000 women who gave birth in 2024. This indicates a reduction of about 27% in infant mortality and 43% in under 5 child mortality over the last 3 decades.
In the likes of Lagos, they are actually at par with actually even developed countries. When you look around their indices around maternal mortality, around infant mortality, very, very high. You can see those numbers are very low in the sense that you can compare them to the UK and key other countries. But also on the other side, when you look around also, our key mortality rate in the likes of the Northwest, the Northeast, is actually very, very high.
As of the second quarter of 2024, the National Health Insurance Authority reported that about 18.7 million Nigerians are now covered by health insurance. However, a poll conducted by NY Polls in November 2024 revealed that only 19% of adult Nigerians have health insurance, indicating that 79% pay for health care out of pockets, a far cry from the desired targets.
Imagine the population of 230 million Nigerians, so you can imagine less than 10% people are accessing this health insurance scheme. So we have to do more to make sure there are more enrollees.
In November 2024, the UK House of Commons Library reported that approximately 22,851 Nigerian healthcare workers, or 1.5% of the NHS workforce, are employed in the UK, making it the top destination for Nigerian medical professionals. In response, the government introduced a national health workforce migration policy in August 2024 to combat the brain drain and encourage professionals to return. However, many experts believe these measures are insufficient to stop the migration.
We are not saying that we should meet up with the same exact amount they are paying in places like Canada, like US, where people are going to. Of course, we know that Nigeria is still a struggling economy, but we can, do something, fashion out something that is better for all cadres of health workers. It will stem this tide of Japa syndrome.
In August, a significant industrial action that surprised the health sector was a 7-day strike organized by the National Association of Resident Doctors. They were demanding the safe release of their colleague, Dr. Ganiat Pokwola, who had been kidnapped in December 2023, an incident the federal government described as disappointing.
If doctors keep on working and then we get abducted every now and then, for one who has been abducted, you don't know what the person's fate is, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And then we keep on working, that means that the environment is not conducive.
After spending 10 months in kidnappers' den, Dr. Pokwola was released in October 2024. From improving infrastructure to tackling mortality rates and addressing the medical brain drain, the next few years will be critical in determining whether the reforms and investments by the government can truly transform the nation's health system. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Coming up, Senegalese Prime Minister set to revoke amnesty law granted to former President Macky Sall. Details shortly. Join us again. Thank you for staying with us. Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko announced that his government would introduce legislation to revoke the amnesty law granted to former President Macky Sall, which covered 3 years of political violence that resulted in numerous deaths. The controversial amnesty, granted just before the March 2024 election, sparked significant debates as Sall sought to ease tensions after delaying the presidential race. The critics argue the move aimed to shield those responsible for serious crimes, including homicides committed during political unrest from February 2021 to February 2024. Now, the law also allowed Sonko, despite his court convictions, to run for president alongside Bassirou Diomaye Faye, who ultimately won. Sanko's speech included a commitment to repeal the law and investigate deaths from political violence, prioritizing justice over vengeance.
Il sera proposé à votre auguste assemblée dans les semaines à venir un projet de loi rapportant la loi d'amnistie votée le 6 mars 2024 par la précédente législature. Pour que toute la lumière soit enfin faite et les responsabilités s'établissent de quelque bord qu'elles se situent. Il ne s'agit pas ici de chasse aux sorcières, encore moins de vengeance, car aucun sentiment de revanche ne nous anime. Loin de là. Il s'agit simplement de justice, pilier sans lequel aucune paix sociale ne peut être garantie.
A migrant boat tragedy in Moroccan waters on December 19th has left 70 people missing, including 25 Malians, according to Mali's government. Now, the vessel, carrying around 80 migrants bound for Spain, sank with only 11 survivors rescued, 9 of whom are Malians, the government confirmed on Thursday. Now, the incident highlights the dangers of sea crossings from Africa to Europe. Over 10,400 migrants have died attempting to reach Spain this year, with a record number heading to the Canary Islands, according to NGO Caminando Fronteras. Smugglers often use perilous routes across the Atlantic to evade controls, navigating long distances in overcrowded, poorly equipped boats. Since 2014, the UN estimates over 16,400 migrants' deaths en route to Europe from Africa, underscoring the deadly risks of these journeys. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier dissolved Parliament on Friday and confirmed the expected dates of February 23, 2025 for the early general election, prompted by the collapse of Olaf Scholz's government last month. Scholz's coalition was brought down by internal fights over how to revive Europe's largest economy, but a deadly car ramming attack at a Christmas market last week has renewed the country's heated debate over security and immigration. Confirming the date for the election, Steinmeier emphasized a need for political stability and appealed for the campaign to be conducted with respect and decency.
Liebe Mitbürgerinnen und Mitbürger, ich habe heute entschieden, den 20. Deutschen Bundestag aufzulösen und Neuwahlen für den 23. Februar des kommenden Jahres anzusetzen. Ein entsprechendes Schreiben ist soeben der Präsidentin des Deutschen Bundestages übergeben worden.
The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the recent escalation between Yemen's Houthi rebels and Israel following Israeli airstrikes on Sana'a International Airport, Red Sea Port, and power stations on Thursday. Now, the strikes, which came after the Houthis launched a missile and drone at Israel the previous day, killed at least 3 people and injured dozens. Guterres expressed concern about the impact on Yemen's humanitarian operations, as 80% of the population depends on aid. He warned that bombing critical infrastructure could worsen the humanitarian crisis. The UN chief also criticized the Houthis for escalatory actions in the region, stressing the risks to civilians, regional stability, and maritime navigation. Guterres called for an immediate ceasefire and urged all parties to exercise restraints.
The Secretary General condemns the escalation between Yemen and Israel. Israeli airstrikes today on Sana'a International Airport, the Red Sea ports, and power stations in Yemen are especially alarming. The airstrikes reportedly resulted in numerous casualties, including at least 3 people killed and dozens more injured.
And South Korean lawmakers have impeached acting President Han Duck-soo, dipped in political turmoil sparked by his predecessor's martial law declaration. Han, who took over from President Yoon Suk-yeol after his suspension due to the controversial move on December 3rd, faced impeachment for allegedly obstructing investigation into Yoon's actions and refusing to complete his impeachment process. National Assembly Speaker Won Won-shik confirmed that all 192 lawmakers present voted in favor of impeachment. Now, this marks South Korea's second impeachment in 2 weeks and the first of an acting president. This comes after main opposition leader Lee Jae-myung said his party would impeach Han Duck-soo for refusing to use impeachment process and to bring him to justice.
국무총리 한덕수 탄핵 소추안은 총 투표수 192표 중 가 192표로서 가결됐음을 선포합니다.
The Business Access Holdings PLC has successfully completed its rights issue, raising 370.41 billion naira despite the Central Bank of Nigeria disqualifying 41.65 million shares valued at 822.60 million naira. Now, the offering was oversubscribed by 5.76%, reflecting strong investor confidence in Nigeria's largest bank by assets. Nabila Mohammed, research analyst at Chapel Hill, Denham, shared her insight on Business Edge regarding what the oversubscription of Access Holdings rights issue indicates to investors on the Nigerian exchange and whether it might lead to the bank offering more loans to businesses and individuals at competitive interest rates. In 2024, the Nigerian business environment faced a series of challenges such as devalued naira, high inflation and rising interest rates, which have significantly affected the operations of manufacturers and small to medium-sized enterprises. In a recent statement, NASIMA President Dele Oye notes that these difficulties have tested the determination and resilience of businesses. Dr. Femi Egbeshola, President of the Association of Small Business Owners in Nigeria, discussed on the Business Edge the effects of naira devaluation on production costs and pricing strategies, as well as impacts on consumer behavior.
The first side of the coin is that because of the devaluation of the naira, most of our inputs are import dependent. We have to now begin to pay more for input for our production processes, leading to a sharp rise in the cost of our production and leading to cost of our finished product at the end of the day. And when the cost is high, we will definitely sell less because the consuming power of the consumers is already eroded. And at the same time, too, because of this high rise in the value of the naira, it depletes our working capital. We are able to do less. Our production has to go down because we have lower funds to do businesses at this time. But the worst of it is that because the cost of production is so high and our products are now so very high when it comes to prices, it now encourages the influx of imported ones that are cheaper into the market, particularly for the Asian countries. So these Asian countries are now flooding our market with their product, which seems to become cheaper because of the rise in the value of the dollar here in Nigeria. But then the gain of it, which is the other side of the coin, is that it also helps us to now become more competitive globally. We are now able to export our products to some other parts of the country.
In the world of sport, there was plenty of boxing action at the Balmoral Event Center in Victoria Island on Friday morning as some of Nigeria's finest pugilists traded blows for glory. A total of 7 bouts took place, and in some of the results, Austin, the magnificent dancer, Nnamdi knocked out Agba, the Punisher Mesak in round 4 of their cruiserweight contest. Light heavyweight star Lekon the Engine Muibi stopped Anselm Nasigbe of Benin Republic to improve to 17 wins from 17 fights, while a stunned crowd watched policewoman Selena Agu upstage national women's light heavyweight title holder Bolatito Oluwole to claim her crown. The highly anticipated main event saw Taiwo Esho Agbaje knock out his bitter rival, Real One, the Real Showboy Lawal, in round 7 to claim the IBO Africa featherweight title. Now, both fighters spoke afterwards. Hopes for qualifying for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations ended after the Confederation of African Football dismissed their appeal. The Guinea Football Federation launched a complaint of Tanzania fielding an ineligible player during the final qualifying match. However, CAF's disciplinary committee ruled against Guinea on Thursday, confirming Tanzania's qualification. Despite the ruling, Tanzania was fined $50,000 for lack of consensus on their part. With this decision, Tanzania secures their spot at AFCON 2025 in Morocco. And that's all on the news. Let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Navy has intercepted 100,000 liters stolen crude in Ondo State. Workers have escaped death as two-story structure caved in Abia State. We also told you that Senegalese Prime Minister is set to revoke amnesty law granted to former President Macky Sall. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adeduba.